Hello, everyone. Welcome into a matinee edition of the Flyers Game Day pregame show. I'm Brian Smith along with Jason Murtitas today, and we are getting you set for the Flyers and the Buffalo Sabres this afternoon up at what was at least KeyBank Center in Buffalo. I think it's still the same building name, but it's hard to tell these days sometimes the way these things go around. But the Flyers making their first trip of the year to Buffalo tonight and picking a wonderful weekend to do it. I'm sure there's nothing better than Buffalo in January. And it's unfortunately indoor hockey tonight. No outdoor game today up in Buffalo. But the Flyers have a matter at hand that they're trying to take care of, and that is to stop this winless skid. It has reached 10 games for the second time this season, and it's putting them in a bit of rare air. That hasn't happened to a team in about 12 years anywhere in the NHL. And it's even less common, rather, for it to happen in the first half of the season. But Jace, the Flyers hit the halfway point today officially. Believe it or not, a little later than normal because of the circumstances surrounding this season. But they are at the halfway point today. And, maybe you look at it as a bit of a fresh start. But what we were talking about the other night was we want to really see kind of an angry team tonight that's sick of this and ready to turn it around.
Yeah. Before we come on the air, Pat Egan, our producer, says, let's have some jump here today. And I'm sorry, but I don't have a lot of jump. No. I'm very ill. But as you can tell by my voice, I sound like the old movie trailer guy.
You should take advantage of this and make some money.
Yeah, for the first time ever. But today's game, and I like what you're thinking there at the midway point. It's kind of, you try and do something to make it a clean slate. But I think it needs to be more than just, saying that. There's something symbolic has to happen too. And I'm not saying that's trade. I'm not saying, a win in the final game of the first half would be a good way to usher in a second half. And we've talked about this, Brian, on Flyers Daily. We've talked about it on our post-game intermissions that, this season they have to find some way to get something good out of it. And I don't mean draft position and win the lottery and draft Shane Wright. I mean, for the guys that are here now, some of the young players, they have to find a way to turn all this negativity that's happened in the first half of the season, and in this second half, find something positive that can come from it. And maybe that's, the growth of Morgan Frost's game. Put him in more situations. Put him in, let him fail a little bit more for the possibility that in this second half of the season, he gets all that stuff out of his system, learns from it, and starts to really flower into the player that you drafted him to be. Right. Same thing, Cam York, put some of these players. Wade Allison's going to be in the lineup today. But I just hope so much that Wade can stay healthy, right? And there's all those things, and that's, to me, what this second half should be about. And I got a lot of people, the fans, the players, I think the coach, everybody needs to park this first half at some point today when this game is over and find a way to find positives in this second half. It's like the calendar turning and everybody joins the gym, right?
Right. Yeah.
But we actually need to go to the gym in the second half. You know what I mean? Yes. Metaphorically speaking.
Exactly.
So that's where I am.
Don't just talk about it, actually do it, right? That's the big thing.
Yeah, don't just sign up.
Right.
You don't lose weight and get in shape by signing up. You lose weight, get in shape by showing up.
Right, exactly. You can't just buy the bike. You have to actually get on the bike.
Yes.
But there are a couple of different ways to look at it there. One of them is what you described, taking the pieces that you have and making sure that they get out there and get into game situations that maybe they wouldn't get into it otherwise if the team was in contention for a playoff spot, battling for position. You may not throw some of these guys into spots like that. So that's definitely a key part of it. The second key part is, and I think we're still a little bit far off here from making this decision, but it's what do they do with some of the veterans that they have? There's the one big elephant in the room is Claude Giroux's expiring contract, and what happens with him if the Flyers remain well out of contention at the deadline. Rasmus Ristolainen is an expiring contract. The Flyers gave up an awful lot to get him. He has been impressive this season. What do they do on that route? What teams are going to be looking for perhaps somebody like Martin Jones to help them with their playoff run? Guys like that. So we're probably a little bit far from that yet, but that's a conversation that has to come down the pike, and I wonder when you start thinking about it, just in terms of what might be available, because it's certainly not a situation where you just if Chuck Fletcher, you just wait until the week of the deadline and pick up the phone and decide, okay, we're going to do it. I'm sure you got to give it some thought now as to who's available and what you might want to get headed forward.
Well, here's what I can pretty much guarantee is that those conversations are happening.
Sure.
They're not. There's the outward-facing part of an organization, and there's the inward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we heard Dave Pagnotta this past week, who's a pretty good reporter, say the Flyers, are still presenting it like they feel like they have a shot to make the playoffs.
Sure.
I can assure you that you don't have to be a math major to know that it's damn near impossible. Nothing's impossible, but highly improbable. And those conversations between GMs. Chuck Fletcher is dipping his toe everywhere he can right now. And I'm sure there was a meeting like Tony Soprano had with his capos saying, where's the money? With his scouting staff and saying, we need to find the amateur and pro scouts, because we're going to have to make these moves. And whether it's Justin Braun or whether it's, a guy like Rasmus Ristolainen, maybe you can recoup a first-round pick, because he's a guy that can really pay dividends in the playoffs, right? And he wants to win. And as much as I like what Ristolainen's brought, Bri, how I feel about adding that element of physicality.
Sure.
that Ristolainen, I think it's so important, not just for him and the plays he makes, but for the entire team. Just hasn't paid dividends this year because it's sideways. But so you look to move him, and Giroux's obviously the big one. He's 20 games shy of 1,000 in the NHL, and it's a Philadelphia Flyer. But much like Ray Bourque, and I'm not saying he's Ray Bourque, but those kind of players, they've earned the opportunity to be able to say, okay, I want to go chase a cup if it's not going to happen.
Sure.
Here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's earned that. I mean, he has spilled it for this franchise for his entire career. So he's earned that opportunity, and now it's up to him. He's got a family, so there's some other elements to the decision to waive a no move clause. But what do you know about Giroux, Bri? He is a competitor. And if he can go play hockey somewhere and compete for that big shiny trophy, I think he's going to take it. And I wouldn't begrudge him one bit. And you know how I feel about him. I've never been shy about the way I feel of him as a player and as a leader. So I wouldn't begrudge him one bit for doing it. And we'll see what happens. But that's a big storyline in this second half. You're absolutely right. But we're one day shy of 2 months away from the trade deadline. A lot of time between now and then. So there's a lot of things in the second half that could be encouraging. I think that's what we can hope for, and see what the return is in some of the players that they may move.
Incidentally, Claude Giroux does have space to hit 1,000 games before the trade deadline. I don't know how much that works into his decision, but like you said, he's earned the right to go do it if he wants to. He's also earned the right to make that decision on his own. He has the no move clause. So if it happens, it will be his decision. And so that'll be fine. This all being said, it harkens back to, the Flyers have been kind of in and out of playoffs, obviously, for the last decade, but it harkens back for me to 06-07, which was the last time that things kind of really went off the rails early for this club. And the transformation that was able to take place between that season
Game 4
and
Game 6 was it?
The Flyers had 56 points that year, and they turned around next year and got to the Eastern Conference Finals. It was a 50-point turnaround or something like that. Just a tremendous job that started with some deals, namely Peter Forsberg going back to Nashville for those picks, and then the eventual further wheeling and dealing that brought Kimmo Timonen and Scott Hartnell to the Flyers. And so,
Danny Briere,
the free agent signing. Yep. So that's what I'm looking for out of this coming year. And again, we're not throwing in the towel necessarily. We're not. It's not a quit thing. But when you look at the math, 41 games starting tomorrow, so 82 points left on the table after today. So today's 84. Flyers have to get at least 60 to be even close, and probably more than that.
That puts you to 93.
That gets you to 93. So, that's why we asked the question. But at any rate, looking at this game today, you mentioned it a moment ago, and I think what we'll do is we'll take a break. When we come back, We're going to talk about Wade Allison finally coming back in the lineup, and also a couple of other moves to bring some young talent up, and another young talent, unfortunately, unavailable to the Flyers again today in Joel Farabee. So we'll discuss all that and more when we return. This is the Flyers Game Day pregame show. Flyers and the Buffalo Sabres coming up in just a little bit. I'm Brian Smith. He's Jason Martinez. We'll be back with you in just a moment here on Flyers Broadcast Network. Flyers Game Day pregame show. Flyers and the Buffalo Sabres getting set to go up in Buffalo today as we have matinee hockey. Warm-ups are underway, and a bit of a different look here for the Flyers today as they go into Buffalo, continuing to be bit by the injury bug. The Flyers have had obviously their share of main pieces that haven't been with them basically all season. Ryan Ellis being at the top of that list, and even some of their secondary pieces like Nate Thompson have been out for a while. But over the past month, the injury list has continued to grow. Sean Couturier misses, I believe, his 12th game tonight, 12th or 13th. And Kevin Hayes had to have a little bit of a procedure done earlier this week, so he is out of the lineup today. Joining them on the sidelines will be Joel Farabee. He's got an upper body issue, and he's going to be out for a little bit here. So again, it's
is it a month, Brian?
I think that's what
4 weeks.
I wanted to say 4 to 6, but I wasn't certain of that.
I think the wording was up to 4 weeks.
Up to 4 weeks. So
yeah,
that'd be nice. So tomorrow or 4 weeks, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
We'll take that. But again, he is. It's not short term. It's not a day-to-day thing. It's going to be a while. So Flyers getting themselves established without Joel Farabee, meaning they have to shuffle the lines just a little bit again. James Van Riemsdyk is going to move up onto that top line with Claude Giroux and Cam Atkinson. But at the back end, we have a newcomer finally back from a preseason high ankle sprain is Wade Allison. He's been back in action for a couple of weeks now, I believe, at least with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. Yeah, and he's done pretty well there. And, given now the circumstances, another guy's out. They might have wanted to give him a little more time to get his timing back at the AHL level, but he's coming up now, and he's going to play on the third line tonight with Max Willman and Scott Lawton.
Yeah, Bri, he's played 7 games in the AHL this season, and he's got in those 7 games 3 goals and an assist for 4 points. He's played in 14 NHL games already too, which I think is a big element because he got in last year in that shortened season, and he seemed to get more and more comfortable throughout his time in the NHL last year. And he was one of those guys we were looking at saying, okay, what's the role of Wade Allison this year? Does he pop into the top 6, or is he a top 9? He was a little power play 2 last year. He scored some goals in his 14 games. He ended up with 7 points in 14 NHL games, that is. And it went kind of south for him in the beginning with the injury. And he's been beset by that back in college at times as well. But he's a guy that brings an element that by the eye test, by looking at the team, you go, oh, they're missing that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The forechecking ability, energy, young, just that exuberance. And he brings all of those things. He's got some grit to him, exciting player to watch. And I still don't think we've seen his greatest asset a whole lot at the NHL level, which is the release and the shot on that right wing, that right-handed shot. So, getting him in the lineup, and that could be one of those things that we're looking for, to go, okay, Wade Allison's in the lineup consistently, and he's really we know he's a good NHL player, and he has a role for this team going forward. That's an important one. And I think that's big and good to see. Hate to see Farabee go out again. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, the kid is getting just taking step by step, getting better and better and better, and he's a good player. You hate to see him deal with this injury again and be out a month, but it's part of it, I guess.
Yeah, both these guys have had their bad luck. You mentioned Wade Allison's collegiate issues. He had, I believe, 2 separate ACL issues over the course. He had 2 separate ACL issues at Western Michigan University, and then he turns pro and is rolling along pretty well. And of all things, he gets hurt in the Flyers rookie game, which was before training camp even happened. He went into the corner and collided with a player, and the player rolled over his ankle. And those high ankle sprains, they are not fun. You'd almost rather break your ankle than having a high ankle sprain at some points. So that took him a while. Skate. Yeah. I mean, that took him a while to get back from, obviously. But to your point, I think he brings a combination of speed, grit, tenacity, if you will, and a shoot first mentality that not a lot of guys on this roster bring that specific combination. I mean, he will shoot from anywhere, and that's really kind of what this team needs right now. They addressed it a little bit by bringing in Cam Atkinson. I think the combination of the two of them obviously would make it even better.
Yeah, and you like to have one of those kind of shoot guys on every line. A guy, not a guy that is just shooting to shoot. A guy that can shoot it, that can really snap it like he can, and like Cam Atkinson can. If you have that on every line, then you have that ability on every line to really stress an opponent and have that, whether the shot is a shot to score or it's a shot with a purpose to create, like we've talked about so many times, that chaos down around the blue paint. So, yeah, he's got all those things you said, like this, the grit and the speed, the forechecking ability, but he does have an NHL legit shot and skill, right? Mm-hmm. And that combination, which is what had fans excited last year and has me excited to see him this year. And, I can't wait to see him in the game today. The good news about that high ankle sprain, Brian, is it wasn't his knee.
Yes.
So it wasn't the chronic issue of a knee.
Right.
And a high ankle sprain, you're right, is hell and high water for a goalie or a hockey player, because there's so much stress put on the ankles and the knees and stuff like that. So, I'm excited to see Wade Allison today and see what he can do. And get in the lineup here for the Flyers.
So also coming back into the lineup tonight is Jackson Cates. He comes back up first. Both these guys went to the taxi squad first, and then they came up to the active roster earlier this morning. Cates is one of those guys that has been back and forth, and again he's a good depth player. He's the kind of guy that the Flyers are glad to have in this situation with 7 guys on injured reserve. And again he's going to get an opportunity down there on that fourth line to center that line and show him or show everybody what he can do. Connor Bunneman in his place goes back down to the Phantoms. So a little bit of a swap there, and a little bit of a different look, I think, on that fourth line center.
Yeah, and Jackson Cates, right? He, undrafted, right? They
Yes.
drafted his brother.
Yes, and his brother is still in college
at Minnesota Duluth.
Yep.
And Jackson Cates, I mean, he's played a decent amount of games at the NHL level at this point. So, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's got some energy down there and can play on that fourth line. He can move to the wing position or play in the middle. So, yeah, he'll be in the lineup today. And, Bunneman is a guy that has created some opportunities. She said hasn't been able to finish at the NHL level.
Right.
Like, Bunny can get there, right, and gets to the spot, but he just hasn't been able to finish. So, put Jackson Cates in there, and we'll see what you get out of him today.
We're going to take one more break here on the Flyers Game Day pregame show. When we come back, we'll look a little closer at this Buffalo Sabres team, including a local connection that has Steve Coates very excited today. So we'll talk more about that and bring you up to our countdown to face-off with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates, who are standing by in Buffalo to bring you all the action. It's the Flyers and the Buffalo Sabres coming up. We'll be back with more in just a moment here on the Flyers Broadcast Network.
Brian, do you have the Eastern Standard Time to get it
at trying to figure out why
59:50?
This and
let me put my earbud in. I can't hear you.
Now I remember that we did win a Stanley Cup in Buffalo, didn't we?
75 or 74. Sorry.
just a little bit behind the Flyers in terms of overall record, and they are starting to take that trip back up. And we've got again, several good young pieces on that team. All of our eyes are on this kid named Mathias Samuelson. We kind of know this guy a little bit. Heard of him?
Heard of
He's
Mathias.
a hotshot defenseman for this Buffalo team, and he's been seasoning a little bit in the American Hockey League, but he's been back up with the Sabres here for a couple of weeks now. He's the son of Shell Samuelson, and a lot of us here watched him kind of grow up around this place. And he'll be in the lineup today for his first game against the Philadelphia Flyers. That's got to be a bit of a thrill.
Yeah, it is, and I'm really happy for Shell and the Samuelson family. Sammy is so proud, and Mathias, a lot like his old man, right?
Yeah,
big boy.
Yep.
I mean, Mathias is 6'4" and rangy like his dad was. Not quite as big as his dad. Sammy's what, 6'6"?
Yes, something to that effect.
Yeah, but got a little bit of a mean streak in him though, and played for Team USA at the in the World Juniors. So I look, he's a good young player, and that'll be interesting to see how he does. And he's the kind of player you like to have, big size on the blue line, and you'll take that any day of the week. And look, let Buffalo, if they're moving up, let's move up with them, Yeah. And, the league is good when certain teams are in the mix. And Buffalo is one of those teams that's good because they got a great fan base there that's loyal. You look at the numbers that come in every year, right? When the Stanley Cup playoffs happen, Buffalo usually not involved. And they're one of the cities that's got the best ratings.
Yeah.
They deserve a good team. We deserve a good team, Dan.
Yep.
Screw Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it all comes down the pike sooner or later, right? Well,
yeah.
They've got again a couple of veteran pieces in here that have had a little bit of bounce back years from last year. Jeff Skinner was probably one of the more miserable people, I would think, last year in terms of I'm sure he was not happy with his production. Only 7 goals, 7 assists in that 53-game strange season. He's already doubled that goal output this year through just 38 games. He's got 14 goals, 10 assists, looking more like the old Jeff Skinner a little bit. They've got Tage Thompson there. They got Rasmus Dahlin, who I believe is perhaps playing with Mathias Samuelson today. I don't know, but he's a little bit more of a experienced presence back there on the blue line. I don't know if you've seen who the starting goalie is. They have about 5 of them on the roster at the moment between the active roster and the taxi squad.
Yeah, they had a weird situation with their goaltending this year. When Olmark left, it left them with the bag, and they signed Craig Anderson and 40-plus-year-old Craig Anderson. But Dahlin's the number 1 overall pick, really good player, and that's like key for them to get those guys pointed in the right direction as well.
Yeah,
they lost Eichel, and obviously that's a huge loss to the franchise, and they got to move forward. But
a huge loss, but I think at the same time, now they move on, right? That lingered for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It too long. It really kind of slowed down any chance of them, trying to improve, whether he was on the team or not. And now that he's not, they can kind of move ahead and try to, continue their path forward.
Absolutely. And, Dahlin was the guy that was kind of going sideways too. People were going, oh no, another, top really high pick with a lot of promise. It's not working out, but I mean, he's leading the team as a defenseman in points. So he's a talented player. I mean, people mentioned Nick Lidstrom when they drafted him, which is unfair to mention that name. But Flyers need a win today, though. Let's end this first half with a win.
Absolutely. They got a great opportunity at hand here, and we'll see if they can't take advantage of it. That's going to do it for this edition of the Flyers Game Day pregame show. Jason and I will be back with you in the first intermission tonight. Right now, though, we're going to send it on up to upstate New York and beautiful Buffalo, where Tim Saunders and Steve Coates are standing by. They've got the countdown to face-off coming up as the Flyers take on the Buffalo Sabres right here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
All right, Pat. All right, everybody on the stream. See you post-game.
What's that? Hauser? Okay. Yeah, I could pick between 3 people, all of whom I